Welcome to Menopause Monday and World Menopause Day 2021. It would be great if our menopause lasted for just one day. In actual fact, our true menopause does last for just one day, and that signifies the day, which is 12 months since you last had a period. So you're either premenopausal, which is you're not got any symptoms, perimenopausal, which I'm going to talk to you today about, and it's all about preparing. If I could do my perimenopause again, what I would do differently to prepare for post-menopause. And then your one day is when we have the menopause, and then beyond that, you're post-menopausal. So I'm post-menopausal, have been for a long, long time. Perimenopause crept upon me without me having the foggiest idea. I must have been in my mid-30s, mid to late 30s when it started appearing. Predominantly terrible night sweats it started with, so much so that I would have to change my bedclothes every single day. I would have to get up, change my, I used to wear like just a lightweight nightgown or a nightshirt. I'd strip that off, I'd lie on a towel. It was awful. Both sheets above and below me were just absolutely saturated. And I went to the, like a well woman checkup, and it was never suggested that it was perimenopause. And looking back on it, it definitely was perimenopause. I also used to be really clear-headed, really highly organized, and that was going as well, almost to the degree that I was thinking, have I got some kind of early onset dementia? And then after that started, like, I didn't really struggle with mood swings, but anxiety would suddenly creep up on me. Now, I'm a qualified psychotherapist. I specialize in anxiety. And so I knew what was happening to me. I knew it wasn't a physiological problem. I knew it was anxiety being caused actually by a physiological problem, being caused by the changing hormones in my body. But I had a way of dealing with it. I could sense it was coming up, and it really made me reflect on, why am I getting this sudden anxiety? Normally it would happen at nighttime. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and it almost hit me like an invisible truck. And it's just like, God, what's happening? And I used to do my deep breathing techniques to reduce it and, mind my thoughts, mind my internal chatter. I also used to put on gentle music. Sometimes that would help. And actually, sometimes I'd listen to maybe hypnotherapy. I'm also a hypnotherapist. I really believe in the power of hypnotherapy, whether it is a hypnotherapy screed that I'd made myself, or whether it's something else I was listening to from somebody else, just to get my mind out of my internal chatter, to stop the internal chatter and to focus on something outside of myself. And that also helps incredibly. And that's one of the tips I'm going to share with you to sleep. So essentially, I'm going to go over sort of 7 main tips that I wish I had been aware of approaching and going through the perimenopause. Now, you're probably going to be in the position where your doctor doesn't say to you, yes, you are perimenopausal. I think many of us have common symptoms, but I think we all experience menopause and the perimenopause in a slightly different way. So don't, believe just because your neighbor or your friend or your sister or your aunt has had it in one particular way that you're going to follow the same pattern. It's highly likely your pattern will be different. So I do recommend you become a super sleuth as to what's going on internally for yourself. It is quite a tumultuous time of your life, because there are big changes going on, and we all go through them if we're lucky enough to have got to this stage of our life. And there's a lot of internal resistance to change. We all have internal resistance to change. There is also a lot of internal, sorry, I've just got a backup recovery thing that's popped up on my computer. We all also tend to be afraid when it incurs or involves a physical change and mental change to a degree. Yeah, I think as we go through perimenopause, menopause, midlife and beyond, there's a lot of changes that are taking place in our lives. And rather than being resistant to it, I really encourage you just to embrace it. See it as you're grateful that you've got to this stage of life. So many people, so many young women are denied the possibility of being where we are now, i.e. being alive. And while it isn't the easiest of transitions to go through, when we look at it as in a positive light rather than a negative light, all of a sudden it changes that internal chatter. So that's going to sort of underpin a lot of what I'm going to suggest today, because we're going to go through the menopause whether you like it or not. It's going to happen. So you may as well embrace it rather than resist it, because it's going to make that journey a whole lot easier. And do a few things which I'm going to share with you today to help minimize your symptoms or even get rid of them entirely. Now, firstly, the main one, I'm just going to go through 1 to 7. They're all equally important, but one incredibly important one is to prioritize your sleep. Sleep is when the body repairs itself, it renews its cellular activity, the brain gets flushed from, they reckon people who sleep or have sleep deprivation have a greater propensity to create the Alzheimer plaques. Probably, maybe, likely due to the fact that the brain isn't getting the chance to flush itself like it would normally do in a person who sleeps well. Now, I just want to also add that I haven't had a good night's sleep, a proper night's sleep, but literally have stayed asleep from when I went into bed to when I get up in the morning for years. And I think also we are all tempted to bemoan the fact that we sleep badly. It's not necessarily the length of time that you sleep, or indeed the amount of times that you wake up at night, although that obviously does have some bearing on it. It's more the quality of the sleep that's happening when you are asleep. Sleep follows sort of 90-minute cycles, and those cycles involve different levels of sleep as the night goes on. So as you get towards morning, you're in more of the REM, the fast eye movement, the rapid eye movement sleep, and that's when you're likely to dream more. But you also have REM towards the end of your sort of 90-minute sleep cycle too. When we first go to sleep, we spend more time in our deep sleep phase and less time in the REM phase. But as we repeat those cycles throughout the night, will be less time in the deep sleep and more time in the REM sleep. So, even if you're waking up every hour and a half, and I find I tend to wake up in sort of hour and a half segments. It might be after 3 hours, it might be after what would be 4.5 hours. But that at least I've had a proper sleep cycle in that time. So, and there's also evidence to show that if you set an alarm clock, if you've woken up naturally and then your alarm clock's going to go off in 20 minutes time and you fall back off to sleep, you feel lousy. And that's because you're back in that deeper stretch of sleep phase. So consider that too. If you often wake up and you think, oh God, why didn't I get up 20 minutes ago when I felt like a spring chicken? It's because after those 20 minutes, you'd probably come to the end of another cycle. And now 20 minutes later, you're back into the deep sleep cycle of your next 90-minute cycle. So just bear that in mind as well. I think the more you understand about that, and the fact that it's highly unlikely you're going to go to bed and sleep for 7 hours solid, 8 hours solid, and then wake up and get on with the day. I wish I could. It's not happened for years, but I consider myself extremely healthy. I work with a lot of other people who sleep very similar to me. So I think when we can appreciate the fact that we're actually probably getting decent sleep, it's just, we're doing it in cycles rather than of one long situation where cycle starts, cycle ends, and we don't wake up in between those cycles. I hope that makes sense. So just be aware of your sleep. Now, for me, my sleep was the first thing to be disturbed with the night sweats. I used to strip the bed off in the morning. I kept spare night shirts out available, spare towels out available, so that when I did wake up and I was dripping wet, I could literally just put on the dry stuff, put a dry towel down, chuck the other stuff on the floor and deal with it in the morning. So if you're prepared, it helps take away some of the inconvenience of waking up sweaty at night. And I'm also going to share things with you that you can do to help actually prevent you getting those night sweats in the first place. Also keep keep a wet or a damp flannel next to your bed. Maybe even put some lavender essence or lavender essential oil on it. And you can just dab that around your neck and the back of your neck and your face and your wrists. And it can just help to cool you down and refresh you a little bit if you have woken up feeling really hot and sweaty. Those little atomizer spritz, water spritzes, are really handy to keep as well next to your bed. Maybe keep one in the car, maybe keep one in your handbag. So if you can feel that you're starting to get hot and sweaty sweaty, you can just spritz yourself off, and it just helps you to cool down a bit faster. And then get used to layers. Oh, I remember being in a sweatshirt, and it was one of those sweatshirts that's quite tight around the neck. And I felt this horrendous hot flush come on when I was talking to somebody in public, and I didn't even know the person. It was really embarrassing. And I could not get this sweatshirt off. And by the time I did, I mean, it was just awful. The volcanic eruption had happened. I was sweaty. I could feel sweat running down my back. My hair just looked a complete mess. I just felt horrible. So get used to wearing layers, things you can strip off really fast. As soon as you feel like a hot flush coming on, you can strip them off. Cardigans will probably become your new best friend, but it does make sense. If you're not a great cardigan fan, maybe just fall in love with them for the next few years while you're going through these transitions. Hot flashes are very tightly related to your adrenal function. And this is going to tie into the other things that I'm suggesting today. So your hot flushes or flashes, they are when you either eat food that's high in sugar or processed food, so it's quite chemical, you're either thirsty, or you've had caffeinated drinks, or you've had alcohol, or even curry, so spices, you might find that suddenly that's triggering a hot flush. If you are waking up with serious night sweats, I highly recommend you get on top of what you're eating as fast as you can do, because that is going to make such a big difference to you. So if you can reduce sugars, of course you can, we all can. I think you have to ask yourself, what are you willing to do in order to make your symptoms better? In an ideal world, you're going to reduce your sugars significantly. That doesn't mean cutting out fruit. Fruit's really good for us, but it means cutting out processed sugars, refined sugars. Cut out the cakes, cut out the biscuits. Maybe have one occasionally as a treat. Focus on possibly going caffeine free. For me, it was incredibly easy, and I love my coffee. And if somebody had said to me, oh, you've got to give up caffeine, it was just like, oh my God, that's going to be really hard. I think I'd find it harder to give up coffee than I would wine. And I like my wine. And all of a sudden, one day, because I can't remember I think I'd run out of my nice coffee, and I'm a real coffee snob, and I hadn't had a chance to go to the shops. So I got some Ticino, which is an organic herbal coffee. So I thought, oh, I'll try that instead. It's completely non-caffeinated. It is a herbal coffee, or a tea, as it's also known, and I have that black. And I realized that when I had started with this Ticino, joint pain that I'd had for years significantly reduced, particularly when I get out of bed in the morning. And I'm sure that's related to my menopausal symptoms too. And all of a sudden, so I cut out caffeine, and it wasn't a problem at all. I think you read about it, it was going to be so hard to cut it out. And for me, it was incredibly easy. So I do recommend, if you can cut down on caffeine, do so, and try out maybe Ticino. It's TEECCINO. I buy mine in the UK from iherb.com. It's really good value from there. It is cheaper than buying it from Amazon. So maybe give that a try. I'm not affiliated with them at all. It's just something that I found made a big difference to me. And then of course, alcohol. That is going to probably make your hot flushes worse. So if you're able to cut it back, or even give it up, I recommend that you do so. It's all about balance. You know, you're going to be going through perimenopause and your postmenopausal years. It lasts for different amount of time for different people, but it's not going to be an overnight thing. So you need to find something that you can stick with consistently. But again, it goes back to how much do you want to get rid of those symptoms? And if you really are struggling with them, cut out the sugars or refined sugars, cut out the booze or significantly reduce it, go caffeine free, and prioritize your sleep. You'll find also by cutting out caffeine and alcohol and sugars, your sleep's going to improve massively as well. So everything I'm saying today is completely interrelated. They do form the same bit of the jigsaw puzzle. But I think hot flushes tend to be one of the worst symptoms that most ladies have. particularly perimenopausal ladies. I think anxiety can soon creep up, and sleep problems too, but hot flushes seem to be one of the worst ones. So they're pretty easy to reduce significantly, and make sure you're staying well hydrated. So that is one of my tips. But when you're sweating more often, it's important that you're drinking more water too, and that doesn't include tea and coffee. Some people say it does. I think your teas and coffees, they can actually dehydrate you. They're also acidic on the body. So if you're getting a greater propensity for like UTIs, which does happen as our estrogen levels fall, the chances are you get more urinary tract infections. You don't want to be drinking or eating things that are making your body more acidic. Goes back to sugar and alcohol too, but also tea and coffee do the same. So try and drink a significant amount of water every day, but I'll go over that in a minute. My next major tip, number 2, is manage your stress. Because our menopausal symptoms are so tightly related to our adrenal health, the adrenals actually back up the ovaries. So when the ovaries go into retirement, the adrenal glands release estrogen. And of course, as we go through the perimenopause, our estrogen levels, progesterone levels, testosterone levels, they're all here, there, and everywhere. But we tend to become estrogen dominant, which means that we've got more, even though our estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone are all falling, our progesterone and testosterone, well, certainly progesterone, falls off a lot faster than our estrogen does. And progesterone helps us feel happier and more comforted. So if you get PMS, if you feel crabby the week before your period, that's because your progesterone levels are falling off. And so it also links into how we feel like with our mood swings, and suddenly you might feel ratty and you don't know why, or suddenly you might feel emotional. It's highly linked to the fact that your progesterone levels are lower in relation to your estrogen levels. So managing our stress is incredibly important. Now, stress can come in all sorts of different forms. Stress is around us all the time. It's not about getting rid of stress, although there are certain things that you can do. It's about managing stress more effectively. There's a certain type of stress called eustress, EU stress, and that's a positive type of stress. And that's almost like having a deadline, but a deadline that isn't literally killing you by making you work all as God sends, but it's having a deadline that's positively encouraging you to get on with those activities that are going to drive your business forward. That is known as eustress. We need a certain amount of stress, and cortisol, one of our stress hormones, is anti-inflammatory. It's incredibly important for our body to work properly. So it's not like the baddie, but because our lives are stressful, particularly sort of through our middle years, and I'm not saying perimenopause signifies middle years, you might be younger, I was, but relationships change, dynamics with your significant other might be changing, more health issues come up, we might have elderly parents, so we're stressing over them, we're worrying about them, we might be caring for them too, which can create a massive financial burden on you and them. There are so many different stressors. Bad food choices is another stress. Having a job that you hate is another stress. Obviously dynamics in the relationship can be another stress. House moving, do you downsize? Are you moving to explore the world? That is another type of stress. So it's really important that you have a good grasp of managing stress, and things that you can do. Maybe start meditating. You can start deep breathing. I've got a deep breathing ebook that I'll put the link to at the bottom of this. You're more than welcome to have that. Breath work is incredibly important for us. It detoxifies the body, it helps stimulate our lymphatic system, but it also helps to calm us. So particularly if you are struggling with anxiety, or indeed mood swings, or indeed you're waking up in the middle of the night and you just cannot get back to sleep, do some deep breathing exercises. And essentially what you need to do is, we'll use like the box method, 5 by 5 by 5 by 5. So you breathe in for 5 seconds through your nose, you hold it for 5 seconds, you release for 5 seconds through your mouth, like you're blowing through a straw, and then you hold that. Once you've released it, you hold for 5 seconds, and you breathe in slowly for 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, breathe out through your mouth for 5 seconds, and hold it for 5 seconds, and repeat that 5 times. As you get better at it, you'll be able to do it for longer periods of time. So rather than increasing the reps so much, increase the time that you're breathing in and holding it. So 5 to 6 and then 6 to 7, etc., etc. And try and do it through into your diaphragm. So when you're doing that breathing, put your hand on your chest and your hand on your belly, and you want your belly to go up first. That is going to stimulate the vagus nerve, which helps to relax us. And we can't be stressed and relaxed at the same time. It's a physiological impossibility. So when you're triggering that relaxation response, it's going to be really, really beneficial to you. I do it when I wake up at night. If my brain suddenly goes on fire, or I'm worried about something, or just can't get back to sleep, I focus on my deep breathing. And often I wake up again, and then I realize the deep breathing sent me off to sleep, and I slept very well. So using breath to manage stress is incredibly important. As far as meditation goes, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. Find what works best for you. I really struggle to meditate. I would prefer to exercise or go for a walk in nature as my form of type of meditation. So you really need to find what works best for you. You might like to meditate by listening to relaxing music. You might like to meditate by following a guided meditation. You may be one of these people who can meditate really well just within the space of your head. If you're one of those people, just keep up with it. And some people, although I find it hard to meditate, I don't dismiss the power of meditation. We have an app that I follow in our workouts library, and when it released, I committed to doing it every day. It's just 10-minute meditations every day, and I felt so much better for it. I really should get back into it again. Like I say, I'm not a natural meditator, but so just go with what works for you. Again, you don't want to be getting stressed because you're thinking, oh, but I can't sit there and go for 10 minutes or 30 minutes, or I can't clear my mind. Just find a way that works best for you, and that is going to be the best solution for you. There are so many, you should do it like this, or did it, and it's just rubbish. Find what works best for you and do that. Next one is your thoughts. So how the power of our thoughts are incredibly impactful on our lives. When you have got that internal chatter of, I'm useless at this, or God, that was so embarrassing, that hot flush, I must have looked so stupid, or I'm getting so frustrated because my brain feels like it's full of cotton wool and I can't even remember the name of the dog. Be kind on yourself. Just be gentle. Watch what your internal chatter is saying, because it does have an impact on our emotions and on how we behave and on the actions that we take. When you can actually observe what you're saying to yourself in your head, you've pretty much won the race, because once you can observe it, you can change it. So become your own best friend. We're all so bad at berating ourselves, and we're all so good at being nice to other people. Start to be nice to yourself. Give yourselves, understand that you're going through a period of your life which it's going to be changing. It's going to be challenging at times. You will get through it. But there are changes that are happening, and it's really important that you go really steady on yourself. I also suggest that you read personal development books. It's something that I do all the time. I've normally got 1, 2, or 3 on the go at the same time. Sometimes it might be a business development book and a couple of personal development books, and then I pick it up and read a chapter of whatever I feel like I need most at nighttime before I go to bed. I've got a massive list. If you want the list of personal development books that I share with my team or that I read and recommend, just message me and I'll send that list over to you. There's all sorts of different types of books depending on the different type of person that you are. What I read and love might not resonate with you, but because it's for my community as well, there's a very wide range of books there, and all you need to do is click the link. It'll take you to Amazon, and then you can read the sort of synopsis of it and see if that resonates with you. But it's a big list, and I think you'll find it really helpful. When we can work on our self-growth, our personal growth, we're investing in ourselves, and for the cost of a book, I say it's well worth doing. The other thing I would suggest is motivational quotes. Have a look on Instagram. Every day there are all sorts of different quote type accounts out there. I do a daily happytivity quote, happytivity, I call it happytivity, sort of happy and positivity. I do that on my Instagram stories and my Facebook stories, and it's just, I just scribble it down on a piece on a card, and often it's what resonates with me most that day. Or if I know somebody's going through something, struggle or some issue in their life, I'll write something, not directly to them, but I'll write the message that I'd like them to see, in the hope that it just helps them a bit through that day. And also affirmations and visualizations. Now, again, I know there's a camp of for and against of this. I know people who you would never think would do affirmations and visualizations. They are like tough cookies, but they do them and they work so well. I've done them, again, a bit like meditation. I wish I could do my affirmations and visualizations more regularly. I know when I have followed my affirmations and my visualizations regularly, things start working out in my life almost miraculously. And one of the books I'm going to read again for about the third time round soon is The Secret, because it's very much based about that. Not everything that they write in there completely resonates with me, but a lot of it does. And our thoughts are energy. And it's a bit like that internal chatter. If you're putting out negative thoughts or toxic thoughts about people, like attracts like, you're going to get it back. Raise your energetic vibration by having happier thoughts, positive thoughts. And just on that, forgiveness is a slightly different thing, but a lot of stress can be tied around or tied up with forgiving somebody who has wronged you. Forgiveness isn't about the person that did the thing to you. It's about freeing yourself from that energy of what happened or that experience. It doesn't mean that you condone their behavior at all, but it releases you from hanging on to that negative energy that's attached to that. It doesn't eradicate it, but it's happened. And by not necessarily forgiving the individual, I think forgiving the circumstances around it frees you up. And again, that goes back into managing stress. So I just wanted to add that, because I think that's something that's really, really powerful, that a lot of us, we feel forgiveness means that we have to give our blessing to the individual or the circumstance that harmed us. Not at all. It frees you. Forgiveness allows you to step away from a circumstance that's happened. If you're living with somebody who is toxic, that's a whole different ballgame. And that might include or involve big change on your part, either a change in you maintaining your boundaries or establishing your boundaries and then maintaining them. And if they continue to jump around and in and out of your boundaries, move on. Bless and release. Water. So this is my number 4 tip. Just drink plenty of water. To know how much water you should be drinking, weigh yourself in pounds. That answer divided by 2 is the amount of fluid ounces of water you should drink as a minimum every day. So for instance, if you weigh 200 pounds, you should be drinking 100 fluid ounces of water every single day. If you're having a lot of night sweats and hot flushes, you need to be drinking more. Water is important on so many different levels, but it helps your mood. It'll help prevent hot flushes if you're getting them, because I know when I'm thirsty, the first thing that happens to me is just like, poof, it brings on a hot flush. It's horrible. And it's a hot flush that doesn't feel particularly nice either. My thirsty hot flushes are not nice hot flushes. Yeah, I never really thought that I'd have different types of hot flushes, but I do. Thirsty ones are not nice at all. And then food. With food, aim to eat more vegetables. Vegetables are great because they not only contain lots of minerals and vitamins, they contain fiber, which is prebiotic. Now, we need prebiotics to feed the probiotics in our gut. The probiotics are the healthy bacteria, and there is more and more evidence pointing to the impact of our gut health on our mental health. But those healthy bacteria need food to feed on, to keep them healthy. Vegetables are very high in prebiotics. So make sure you're eating lots of vegetables. Ideally aim for half of your plate to be full of either salad or veggies. And then protein, sort of the size of your fist almost, as just a quick guideline. And carbs, now vegetables and fruits are also carbs, but I'm talking about like the pastas and the rices, those, and potatoes, those sorts of things. Carbs we need for energy. So as we go through the day, I think a lot of us tend to, or certainly I used to, eat pasta and potatoes at the end of the day, but we don't actually need it. So because we're not using that fuel, it gets stored as fat. So you only need a small, really, if you have any, you only need a very small portion. Now, what I suggest to the ladies in my Fit for Life group is to, and according to the nutritional and diet, nutritional systems that we follow, instead of having pasta, have zoodles or spiralized courgettes. So courgettes, I think, is what we call them in the UK, or zoodles, zucchini, spiralized zucchini across the pond. They are lovely. Of course, it's a vegetable and it's just like eating spaghetti, but it's a lot crisper and healthier. And if weight management is a goal of yours, it's going to help you tremendously in that. Spaghetti squash is fantastic. You can bake a spaghetti squash and just use a fork to get all the little bits up if you prefer like sort of more scrappy looking spaghetti. Cauliflower rice is literally cauliflower florets raw, blitzed up in a food processor, and then I tend to bake mine in the oven, but you can pan fry them, you can steam them, and that acts as a really healthy version of rice. Yes, it looks more like couscous, but whenever I serve up a curry, I use cauliflower rice. So again, it's just a healthier alternative rather than the starchy carbs that you actually don't really need so much as the day goes on. And if you love your potatoes, opt for a small sweet potato occasionally instead of a white potato. I love potatoes. Chips, I just adore. I cannot walk past a fish and chip shop without really struggling to not walk in and eat. I just adore chips. It's one of my major weaknesses. But again, I have them as a treat. And yes, if I go out for dinner, if I haven't got chips on my plate, I will pinch a chip off somebody else's plate. I just cannot help it. What else was I going to say? Movement. So number 6 is movement. As we get older, as we go into perimenopause, if you can set up a workout schedule, you will do yourself so many favors, because as we go through the menopause, our bones weaken, our muscles atrophy. So if you don't actually use your muscles, you lose them a lot faster. We lose collagen. That's why we get more wrinkles. The elastin in our skin and our bones decreases too. So and our human growth hormone falls off massively. Another reason why you want to be sleeping well, because that's when we produce our human growth hormone. But through perimenopause and into the post-menopause, our human growth hormone drops off massively. But by exercising, we stimulate that. So you want to be focusing on exercise. Now, when I went into perimenopause, all of a sudden I was still exercising. I was following my own routines at home. I was working out for about an hour and a half every single day. I did a lot of swimming. I'm a very fast front crawler. So it wasn't like pootling up the pool and chatting to people. It was full on swimming. I was doing hula hooping. I was doing weight exercises on the floor, taking up about an hour and a half every day to do this. And my waist was just becoming like a barrel. It's just like, what on earth's happening to me? I felt really uncomfortable in my skin. I was putting on weight. I never really used to hop on the scale, so I couldn't actually tell you how much weight I put on, but I felt like I was putting on weight, and I just felt really out of sorts. And that was during the perimenopause. Now, since I've learned about fitness and I've used myself as a guinea pig, and I've seen the transformations in the groups that I run and other people run, following the right type of exercise for 30 minutes 5 times a week is going to get you amazing results. And this links back into stress. When we're working out for a long period of time, our cortisol levels are peaking for longer than they need to, which means that we're creating more belly fat. We have 4 times the amount of receptors around our belly for cortisol receptors, than we do in any other part of the body. So when we're stressed, even if you eat well, you drink lots of water, you sleep well, but if you're going through severe stress, you'll probably find you're going to have a bit of a pouch on the front. That is down to cortisol. when our cortisol spikes over a long period of time, it spikes our insulin, which is our fat storing hormone, and it's really hard to get rid of. So as well as managing your stress and improving your sleep, eating well, drinking lots of water, movement is going to gobble up your stress hormones. It's going to flood your body with endorphins, but you need to make sure it's the right kind of movement. So if you're brand new to the idea of moving your body, go for a brisk walk every day, because it's not going to put that much impact on your joints. It's not going to be that hard to do. You want to be getting breathless when you're walking, and you want to have a target to increase your speed, or even start with a light jog, or ideally you want to be including weight bearing exercises. You can even put like wrist weights on when you go for a walk, just a couple of 2-pound wrist weights, just to add some weight, more weight bearing to your skeleton. As we go through the menopause, we have fewer osteoblasts, which build bone, and more osteoclasts, which gobble up dead bone cells, because bones are living, they're constantly renewing, but they renew themselves slower as we go through the menopause. So if you can start running, or you do strength training, so you might run 3 times a week and strength train 3 times a week, that would be perfect. That is going to have a massively positive impact on not only your muscle tone. You're going to look nice and strong and toned muscles, but you're also going to be building up those, helping keep your bones nice and strong. I also recommend HIIT training, HIIT interval training. So short, sharp blasts. The running program that I follow, I'm combining a strength training program with a running program at the moment. And the running is just 20 minutes, apart from on our 5K day. And each run is slightly different. So quite often it will be like a run for 30 seconds at a fairly fast speed. And then we recover for a few seconds or a couple of minutes. And then it'll be another burst for maybe 60 seconds at a sort of medium speed, medium challenging speed. And it's designed in such a way that it doesn't spike your cortisol, but gets you great results. I mean, talk about negative internal chatter. I used to be the worst runner. Literally, I just couldn't get into it. Now I'm on the 4th time through of this running program. It's a 30-day program. I'm loving it. My entire running, how I see myself running, my running form, my ability, it's just like, yeah, I love my running days. And that is just by following a program that has worked so incredibly well. But it's because it's short bursts of intense activity with good recovery in between. So you want some aspect of weight bearing and high intensity. But like I say, if you're brand new to moving, brand new to fitness, just start with a brisk walk and then get it a bit faster, add weights, and then progress onto something that's not too challenging. Get in touch with me if you need help to get started with workouts, or indeed if you're super fit but you're not getting the results that you used to get. Again, get in touch with me and I'll be able to help you out with that. And then finally is get outside. So many people forget the importance of ultraviolet. UV, we need ultraviolet in order to convert vitamin D in our bodies, and this has a big impact on the rest of our functioning. So for instance, people who live in high latitudes, so they don't get exposure to an awful lot of sunshine. The extremes, actually, both extremes, the high and low, the extreme high and the low latitudes, their days are shorter, and they have higher cancer rates, higher heart related problems, higher mental health issues, higher rates of mental health issues. Ultraviolet is incredibly important. It helps us convert to vitamin D in our bodies, which is essential for strong bones, good skin, strong teeth, mental functioning, cognitive functioning, heart health, immunity, helps us beat cancer cells. It is also, it helps us sleep better. Vitamin D also is necessary for us to create effective amounts of serotonin, one of our feel-good hormones, which has also reminded me, talking about just as a quick aside, serotonin, 90% of our serotonin is made in our gut. Another reason why we want to make sure that we're eating healthy food and getting lots of veggies, because as perimenopause hits and you're feeling more volatile, one moment you're up here, the next moment you're down here. If you've got good levels of serotonin in your body, through good gut health, it's going to support how you feel and how you go through into post-menopause. And going back to ultraviolet, it helps you sleep better. If you struggle with sleep and you've been to a doctor, you may have been prescribed melatonin in tablet form. When we're out in the sunshine or ultraviolet light, that stimulates the production of melatonin. It's incredibly important. So make sure you're getting, I would say, a minimum of 30 minutes outdoors every day. If it's cold, just wrap up and get outside. It's sort of middle day when the sun's at the highest point. If you're lucky enough to live in a warm climate, you're probably getting plenty of ultraviolet light already. It's really important that we get outside and get into nature. Being outside in nature is incredibly grounding. When I go out into the streets, I wear shoes, but if I'm around the garden or the house, I never wear shoes. Even in the winter, I'm hard pushed to put shoes on. If you can get outside and just stand on your lawn or lie on your lawn for a while in the sunshine, obviously don't get burnt, but the ground releases negative ions, and those help counteract the positive ions, and positive ions are bad for us, negative ions are good for us. But like, laptops, phones, plugs, all the electrical devices, broadband, routers, this, that, and the other that we plug in around our houses, they are constantly giving off EMFs, or electromagnetic fields, which fill our spaces with positive ions. That's why if you can get outside into nature and take your shoes off, go and hug a tree. I tell you what, it makes you feel amazing. And if you hug a eucalyptus tree after it's been raining, put your ear against the bark, you'll hear the water going up inside the tree. It's the most magical sound. It's beautiful. So those are my 7 tips. I think we could apply them to every aspect of our life, whatever, but particularly as you're going through into perimenopause, getting ready for menopause, going through midlife. If you can set yourself up now, your symptoms are going to be significantly reduced. So in summary, number 1 is sleep. Prioritize your sleep. And that might mean just turning off the television earlier, eating slightly earlier so you can get to bed earlier. And find what is your ideal amount of sleep. Some people thrive on 5 hours. Some people need 9 hours. You work out what is best for you. Number 2 is managing your stress effectively. 3 is managing your thoughts and your internal chatter. 4 is drinking sufficient water. 5 is making sure that you're eating healthy-ish food most of the time. Have treats. Of course you can have treats. It's a lifestyle. It's not like prison, but you want to make sure that you're eating healthy 80%, 70 to 80% of the time. Number 6 is include movement 5 times a week. And number 7 is get outside. Now, if you want, I will put the links below this. If you want or if you're listening to this on Instagram, on my IGTV, click the link in my bio and go to free resources. You'll see them in there. But I've got the Breathing for Health ebook. It explains more about breath work, but it also has got some really cool deep breathing exercises in it. And if you struggle with your sleep, I've also got a healthy sleeping habits ebook. And you're welcome to have that as well. So I'll put the links below. And if you need help with your health and fitness, message me and I can have a chat with you. We can decide what is best for you, what you need, what your goals are, what you struggle with, and we can take it from there. So yeah, just send me a message if you need some help with that. If you found this helpful, please, I'd really appreciate it. You give me a thumbs up, and if you want to hit the subscribe button, then you won't miss any further future Menopause Monday. So make it a great week. Be kind to yourself. Prepare yourself for the menopause onslaught. And if you're going through the menopause already, like I am, everything I have said today, you can start to use now, and it will significantly reduce the symptoms that you might already be struggling with. So thanks for your time, and catch you soon.